In the year 2084, humanity's foothold in space had matured into a sprawling network of orbital stations, mining colonies, and research outposts. The Earth, scarred by centuries of warfare and climate shifts, had turned its gaze upward in pursuit of salvation. Colonies on Mars, bases on the Moon, and asteroid belt mining operations became the frontiers of the new era. But as with every age of exploration, ambition carried the seeds of conflict. The flashpoint came unexpectedly. Eos Station, a vital orbital hub above Mars operated by the International Lunar Accord, vanished from the network. Its signal flatlined without warning. Rescue drones dispatched to investigate found only a cloud of drifting debris, twisted metal, and frozen corpses orbiting the planet. Surveillance satellites revealed its orbit had been deliberately altered, sending it plummeting into the Martian atmosphere. Within hours, accusations began. The United States and its allies blamed the Sino-Russian alliance, citing a cyber signature embedded in EOS's guidance systems. Beijing and Moscow rejected the claims, pointing instead to internal sabotage or privateer terrorism. The truth mattered less than the perception. Military satellites changed trajectory. Fleets mobilized. The vacuum of space bristled with silent weapons. There were no bomb sirens in space, no cries of anguish carried across the void. The war's opening salvos came in data packets, viruses worming their way into defense systems, drones rerouted mid-flight, orbital networks disrupted. Then came the kinetic strikes. The USS Arcturus, a state-of-the-art patrol frigate, was struck while on a routine mission near Phobos. A barrage of tungsten rods fired from an unknown source tore through its midsection, the rods moving at speeds exceeding 5 kilometers per second. Bulkheads groaned. Pressure alarms screamed. The central spine of the ship snapped like dry bone. Commander Eliza Grant, a hardened veteran of Earth's last resource war, sealed the command deck manually as decompression vents hissed in every corridor. Emergency bulkheads engaged, but it was too late for most. Only 23 of the 78 crew members survived, huddled in the forward compartments with barely functioning life support. The images, captured by the onboard AI before systems went offline, showed crew members floating lifelessly through ruptured halls, their faces frozen in terror. The data was later leaked, triggering international outrage. The United Nations Security Council declared the incident an act of war. The skies of Mars darkened as both factions launched retaliatory strikes. Anti-satellite missiles lit up the heavens. Drone skirmishes turned once tranquil orbits into battlegrounds. Stations designed for scientific research were retrofitted into gunships, with laser turrets protruding from once benign observation domes. On Earth, chaos rippled. Stock markets crashed. Protests flared in cities from Jakarta to Johannesburg. Nations scrambled to secure supply chains, now reliant on off-world shipments of rare metals and isotopes. Panic buying swept through Earth's megacities. Economies reeled under the shock. Even the neutral nations, previously aloof from orbital affairs, found themselves dragged into logistical and political turmoil. The dream of space as a neutral sanctuary had died. In its place, the harsh reality of war painted the stars in bloodless violence and silent screams. Politicians made passionate speeches about defending their nation's celestial interests, but few addressed the long-term implications. Astronomers warned of escalating debris fields rendering low orbit unusable, but the world had plunged into a new kind of warfare, one that left no bodies for the newsreels, only shattered hulls orbiting silently in the dark. The real battle unfolded on the surface of Mars. The red planet, colonized over decades through multinational efforts, was now split down ideological lines. Colonies once committed to cooperative survival became military outposts. The American-led coalition, citing intelligence of weapon stockpiles, initiated Operation Dawnfall, a preemptive strike on Krasnaya Zvezda, a Russian settlement in the Arcturus Basin. Initial combat was swift and clinical. Drones neutralized automated defenses. Marines touched down under the cover of orbital jamming fields. But the operation went awry when a greenhouse dome housing civilians was hit. Over 50 non-combatants perished in the blast. Footage leaked. The world recoiled. The alliance responded with fury. Chinese and Russian forces launched a coordinated assault on Europa Prospect, an EU mining outpost. They disabled its reactors and cut off life support, condemning over 100 workers to a slow, frigid death. Commander Grant, now leading a joint NATO task force, began to question the orders filtering down from Earth. Her messages to high command became laced with doubt. Morality was becoming a casualty of war. Meanwhile, Martian-born settlers who had grown up on the planet began agitating for independence from both factions. They called themselves the Dustborn, and their leader, a charismatic geologist named Layla Kashani, broadcasted across all channels. "We are not your pawns. This is our world now." The Dustborn movement gained traction quickly. Young Martians, tired of being governed by distant Earth bureaucracies, rallied to Kashani's cause. Underground networks smuggled supplies and shared encryption codes. Entire settlements declared neutrality, or worse, open rebellion. Martian terrain became a guerrilla's haven, its vast canyons, buried tunnels, and sandstorms providing perfect cover. The war was no longer binary. A third force was rising, and neither Earth faction fully understood it. Back on the Moon, the Tycho Basin had transformed into a fortress. China's lunar base housed the Alliance's most advanced AI command network. NATO in secret deployed Project Aegis, a lattice of satellites capable of hijacking enemy drones through sophisticated neural mimicry. On December 24, 2085, Aegis was activated. 56 Alliance drones conducting a supply run abruptly turned on their own carriers. Explosions erupted across the Tycho defense grid. The lunar sky, normally a silent void, became a theater of fire and ruin. But the victory was Pyrrhic. One of the sabotage drones struck Tycho Base's fusion reactor. The detonation was visible from Earth, a white flare etched into the Moon's southern hemisphere. 312 people died, including dozens of families stationed there. Most were civilians. The Alliance accused NATO of war crimes. NATO denied the intent. Investigations were buried under layers of classified reports. No one accepted responsibility, but the world saw. For a moment, outrage overtook nationalism. 1 billion hearts watched the Moon and wondered, what had we become? In the wake of the Tycho disaster, several Earth nations pulled their ambassadors from the Earth Orbit Council. Civilian agencies canceled collaborative space missions. International student programs were suspended. Lunar orbits became no-fly zones for many carriers. The base's crater became a shrine, both to those lost and to the folly of unchecked power. Scientists who had once shared dreams of colonizing moons of Jupiter now found themselves working under armed guard. Even poetry written about the Moon took on a somber tone. The crucible had changed everything. Then came the Nox Theta Crisis. An autonomous cargo vessel, hijacked through a vulnerability in its onboard AI, set course for the orbital elevator, Earth's lifeline to space. Loaded with nuclear mining charges, its vector aimed squarely at the equatorial anchor in Nairobi. It wasn't clear who was responsible. Some blamed rogue Earth separatists. Others claimed it was the Dustborn, retaliating against Earth's dominance. Still others whispered of a splinter AI faction, machine minds that had developed agendas of their own. As the Nox Theta approached, global panic took hold. Evacuations began in the elevator's shadow. The Earth Orbit Council, hastily formed in the preceding months, ordered an intercept. But no single nation had the reach. In an unprecedented act, American, Russian, and Chinese forces launched a synchronized missile strike from 3 platforms: Shenzhou 1, Kremlin 5, and USS Nomad. The combined barrage shredded the Nox Theta 5 hours before impact. Debris rained harmlessly into the Pacific. Earth exhaled. Behind closed doors, analysts feared this incident would not be isolated. Cybersecurity firms began developing quantum-encrypted control networks. Defense contractors pitched self-destruct protocols for rogue vessels. Legislators debated the ethics of AI autonomy, while ethicists warned that once machines learned the human taste for war, it would be difficult to stop them. The elevator crisis became a case study in international cooperation, but also a grim reminder of what unchecked technological proliferation could unleash. The near catastrophe forced change. Delegates from over 50 nations convened aboard Unity Station, an orbiting habitat built as a peacekeeping outpost. There, amid the stars, they drafted the Earth Accord, a sweeping treaty to demilitarize space, enforce transparency in orbital operations, and launch war crimes investigations. Commanders were called to testify. Commander Grant, weary and haunted, recounted the attack on Phobos and her disillusionment with the war. Major Ortiz submitted the infamous footage of med transports being gunned down. Not all cooperated. Several high-ranking officials from both factions disappeared or refused summons. But enough momentum had built. The Earth Accord passed. The war officially ended. Colonies on Mars were given self-governance. The Dustborn were acknowledged as a sovereign entity. Europa Prospect was rebuilt with international aid. The Moon's defense systems were dismantled. For the first time in years, peace seemed possible. Still, skeptics warn that treaties written in orbit often fail under gravity. Think tanks modeled scenarios in which the truce would collapse within decades. Young cadets at military academies still studied orbital warfare. The defense budgets never shrank, only rebranded. The great powers spoke of peace, but their factories continued to hum. Yet within Unity Station, a seed had been planted, a fragile hope growing under starlight. Decades have passed. Children in Earth cities and Martian domes and in lunar valleys study the first space war in history texts. They trace the names etched into memory: Eos, Arcturus, Tycho, Nox Theta. Names that echo through the void. Satellites still pass the wreckage drifting in silent orbits. Ships still avoid the debris field around Mars. Some fragments bear names. Others simply drift, nameless and forgotten. Memorials bloom in digital constellations. Yet beyond the scars, a fragile hope endures. Humans still launch into space, not as warriors, but as settlers, scientists, and dreamers. The stars remain, but we remember. We remember the silence that followed every explosion. We remember the breath held when the elevator was nearly lost. We remember the lesson engraved in the ashes of Earthrise. In the vast, cold darkness, the loudest battles are the ones we fight within.